walking down a beautiful wooded country lane towards the bathhouse and the fort, and looking around I can see ash trees, sycamore, oak trees, willow trees, hazel, hawthorn. Real beautiful place, and I wonder how many Roman soldiers must have walked down here towards the bathhouse or towards the fort, or walking the other way going towards some of the other forts. It really is a fascinating place, and the history is really interesting. We're looking at the Roman remains of the Glanaventa bathhouse. Now what remains here are some of the tallest Roman structures in northern England. They seem to think that they're in such good condition because they were used during the Middle Ages, and that's kept them almost intact. The bathhouse was part of the fort of Glanaventa, and there was a vicus, a sort of village, small town, that was part of the fort. And you can see as we go through here, if we look to our left, there's an alcove for maybe a statue, maybe of the emperor, maybe Hadrian. It was built around the same time as Hardknott Fort, so it could have been a bust to the Emperor Hadrian. The village was about 6 football pitches in size, and as we go around here and look up the slopes of the fields, this would probably have been wooded, and the wood would have used to support the fort in firewood. There's quite a few streams running down off the hills, and these would have been used to provide water for the bathhouse. It's a fantastic structure. When you look at the stones, all set in concrete. You have to remember the Romans invented concrete. I think the holes in the wall, the square holes, are probably for flooring joists, because it's quite a big structure. You know, soldiers could come here and civilians could come here, rest, relax, swim, play sports. So I think it was probably multi-storied, and for these to remain is fantastic. You can see the structure. Even now they look substantial. About 14 foot high. A lot of the stone from the fort was taken to build Muncaster Castle, so probably not that long ago these would have been more extensive. Just noticed at the bottom of this wall there seems to be some sort of drain. It goes under the wall, all the way under. Let's see if we can get the camera in and have a look. Bramble's going having a nosy. Oh boy, you see down there? Wow, how far does it go? I don't know. And it's definitely something that would have served the baths. It's strange walking about the ruins to think that 2,000 years ago people just like us were walking around them as well. I suppose it was the local leisure centre at the time, but it is a lovely place to visit. You can see here a wall coming out here. The actual bathhouse complex extended into the field, so it was a big area. Look at this archway above my head, spanning the doorway. Maybe this was the main door, but you can see here 2,000-year-old concrete. What fantastic inventors the Romans were. So this room here with the niche, for the statue probably would have been the changing rooms, and then from here they could have gone out several doors depending on what activity they wanted to do. But it's quite big. As we come through here and we go into here, excavations in 1881 found a lot of walls running the length of this field and into the next. When they were doing the excavations in 1881, this floor here was found to have a hypocaust, which I think was like underfloor heating, and it would have been used to heat the bathhouse. So what we see on the surface, there's probably as much been buried again under the surface. Now we look into this field, you can see just about here the ground start to rise, and that was the outer embankment of the fort. Now initially it was a turf rampart that protected the fort, and later on they built an outer stone wall to make the defence a little bit more substantial. Probably something that looked like Hardknot Fort. It supported 500 men, and it was built, the main fort was built around 130 AD, but there is evidence underneath of an earlier fort, and it's on a different alignment to this one. It's thought the earlier fort was built around the 1st century AD, but the main fort, which came later, was the sort of garrison fort for the port of Glanaventa, and it was garrisoned by the first cohort, Aelia Classica. Now Aelius was Hadrian's family name, and Classica means fleet, so maybe these soldiers were part of Hadrian's naval fleet and they were garrisoned here. When they've been doing excavations, they have found quite a few things, but one of the main ones they found was a bronze demobilisation tablet for one of the soldiers. So it shows there was a thriving town, village growing up around here, and maybe the soldiers settled here when they finished serving the time in the Roman army. But when we look all around here, all of this would have been part of the vicus, the little town or village that sprung up around the fort. Looking at the fort from the opposite end, you can actually see how pronounced the rampart ditch is here, and how you see the dip as the earth goes down where the blue bucket is. It goes down and then comes up. This fort was thought to have been built in the 2nd century, and it was occupied, I think, for quite a few hundred years. Although there is evidence that it was burned in 197 AD when the Romans were fighting some of the northern tribes, but a campaign by Emperor Septimus Severus put down the rebellion, and the fort was reoccupied. Glanaventa sat at the confluence of the rivers Ert, Mite and Esk, and it was a natural safe harbour, and it supplied the forts of Hardknot and Galava at Ambleside. Cast your mind back to the 2nd century AD and try and picture Roman galleys moored up, a hive of activity, shipping supplies to the fort. This was Glanaventa, the Roman port in the north of England. When you look at the landscape here, it probably hasn't changed much. So in the last 2,000 years since Rome, it's not hard to imagine seeing Roman galleys pulled up on the beach, men scraping the barnacles off them or tidying up the sails. If you look on the other side, you can see a line of stakes. I don't know what they are. I don't think they're connected to the fish traps, but they seem to run along the edge of the river. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're stakes or not. Look interesting. Can I get across to have a look? Strange how the beach behind us is all sand, and you turn around and it's all shingle. Really weird.